Hello, my name is Rainer Shea. Nothing makes me especially qualified as a journalist. I'm not a professional journalist, but I'm making this video to counteract the massive amount of misinformation and false representation that is going on in the media reports surrounding the recent indictment of 13 Russian nationals by Robert Mueller this month. Now I'm going to point out some information and after you hear this, you'll see how well the official narrative about this indictment business adds up. How plausible that sounds. First among them is right after the indictment happened, Vox, the liberal magazine, put out a headline saying, "Here are the biggest takeaways from the Russia indictments." This article by Jennifer Williams. It says, "It doesn't say this operation was directed, funded, or carried out by the Russian government or Vladimir Putin himself, and it doesn't say the interference had any effect on the outcome of the 2016 election." Then there's the fact that Facebook's former advertising VP Rob Goldman tweeted after the indictment that, "I have seen all of the Russian ads, and I can say very definitively that swaying the election was not the main goal. Of course, Goldman followed that up by saying that the goal of the Internet Research Agency, the firm that these Russian officials were working at, that their goal was still to somehow incite division among Americans. But then there's this theory, this very plausible theory, pointed out by Max Blumenthal and others, that the goal of this firm was really to generate clickbait and ad revenues, not any political motive. And you'll see why this sure sounds like a good theory after you see these facts. When you actually look at the indictment, when you actually read the indictment, it says that the Internet Research Agency's accounts retweeted Joy Ann Reid 267 times throughout the election, and that, of course, they've organized anti-Trump rallies. This indiscriminate nature of the political promotions that they were doing really seems to show that their motive was not to push any particular political agenda, or even to sway to incite division, but to take advantage of online political interest in order to generate ad revenues. And what further proves this, what further proves that they weren't trying to advocate for any particular candidate, was how Jill Stein, again, when you actually read the indictment, Jill Stein is only mentioned once in a description of one tweet that the Internet Research Agency once put out, and then Bernie Sanders is only mentioned twice in vague descriptions of how the Internet Research Agency was aiming to promote Sanders. No description of any substantial effort to promote Sanders. And then there are the broader details surrounding this. Like, Robert Mueller knows all of the stuff I just mentioned. He knows that these were not these 13 people were not necessarily working for Putin or to sway the election or to incite division. And his choosing to indict them is really more of a posturing, since these 13 people, they've been indicted technically, but they're not going to be prosecuted. They'll only be prosecuted if they come into this country. So this is essentially a fake indictment, a piece of Russiagate theater, and this is just the latest of the litany of of public spectacles that the deep state has engineered in order to divert our attention towards this towards being obsessed with the supposed threat of Russia. And so that if you're not familiar with this with what I've looked at, that last statement might sound might sound implausible, but then look at this. Look at the testimony that National Intelligence Director Dan Coates gave at the Senate the other week, where he was advocating uh, for uh, a broad societal reformation of society. I'm quoting him directly. He advocated for the combination of education, economic, and military powers in order to counteract this threat. That's what he said. And then there's the numerous NATO escalations, the numerous NATO aggressions towards Russia that have happened in recent years. And then there's the U.S. is starting to actually bomb Russians in Syria this month. That's a very dangerous provocation. Bloodshed has happened, in part because of Russiagate and because of this manufactured hysteria. And then there's the Ukraine deal, uh, that Adam Schiff and other proponents of Russiagate pressured President Trump into approving, uh, by trying to paint him as an agent of Putin. Yes, last year President Trump approved an arms deal to Ukraine, that many experts have concluded and has been proven. This arms deal uh, really incited conflict in Ukraine, and has led to catastrophe there. And this has happened because of Russiagate. Yes, there is a now these I don't know how plausible these assertions sound unless you've really looked into this issue. I'm going to focus on this issue more in later segments, but there's a broad bipartisan effort going on to make austerity and war permanent. And incidents like this indictment are play a part of this. This will not be the last piece of Russiagate theater we see. And every time something like this happens, be skeptical, because this is part of a very dangerous thing that's going on. Thank you.